Live from the chicken wing capital of the world, Buffalo, New York. You're listening to the Childcare Bridge podcast, your source for the best tips, tools, and tactics on how to market and grow your childcare center, ensuring total domination. Total domination. This is the Childcare Bridge, and this is your host, Michael Tasner.
Where is the attention of your prospective families as well as your current families going? In today's episode of the Childcare Bridge, we're continuing and talking about trends. We're talking about what's occurring in the industry. What shakeups am I seeing across our hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of centers that we work with? What am I seeing? And one of the most interesting things that I wish I could have predicted 10 years ago was all things AI search. So what I want to talk through today is, where is the attention going? What does this mean for you? But most importantly, what do you have to do now? Like, what is the, Michael, I've got to jump on it now or it is going to be disastrous. And I want to talk through what that actually looks like. Now, if I were shooting this podcast, this video, let's say 3 months, 4 months, even 6 months ago, I would be having a similar tune, but I would not be as aggressive in pushing this on you as I am going to be today. And with everything that I do, it comes down to math, marketing, math. Everything is a math equation. If you've listened to my content, you know that I always talk about, you look at that gap of where you are to where you want to get to, that's your gap. That gap then can be backfilled with activities, lead generation, tours, and then you have all the data so that we can figure out with a very simple math equation, how do I get you from point A over to point D, for example. And then we start to bake in the plan and you reverse engineer it. What's happening with this marketing math is that parents, and not even just parents, grandparents, teenagers, brothers, sisters, like everyone is rapidly moving from using Google as their primary search engine to where they find information, to tools like ChatGPT, Grok, Claude, Gemini, Perplexity. They're starting to use these AI models. And what's became very, very clear to me is that ChatGPT is the new Google. Now, Google is not going to disappear overnight. That's not what I'm saying. But when I look at way back when I looked at Google versus Yahoo versus Bing and AOL search, and there was another one that had like a dog name that is escaping me, Fetch or I don't know, something like that. And the percentages were just so varying and just so disproportionate. Google was like 95%, maybe Bing was 3%, Yahoo 1%, and all these other ones like 0.000 whatever. Like Google was the king, the queen, the emperor. Google had everything. Now, Google does own other assets, as you know. YouTube is one of the most popular platforms in the world. It's one of the top 10 visited websites across the world. And they own a whole slew of other assets. However, you need to start paying attention to where the attention is going. And the easiest place for you to look is to pause for a minute and ask a very, very simple question. Isn't that interesting? That's, well, Michael, what's interesting? I want you to start looking all around you. I want you to start paying attention the next week to your team, your staff, your behaviors, your kids, your spouse, people in line at the bank or the credit union, for example. And start to notice their behaviors and then start to ask the question / make the statement, isn't that interesting? When I say this statement of isn't that interesting, it allows me to start to get a little bit creative. Well, isn't that interesting that X? In this case, I'm looking for you to find people that are going to ChatGPT or Claude or Grok and loading things in. I can assure you that right now, many, if not every one of your team members is using ChatGPT in some form on a, I would say daily, but let's say weekly basis, but most are using it every single day. So I'd say, well, isn't that interesting? And then I want you to go down a couple of rabbit holes. I want you to say, well, tell me more. What are you using it for? Are you stopping going over here and you're now going to ChatGPT? I want you to ask and say, well, isn't that interesting that you're talking to it? What do you mean talking to it? Well, there's a voice version that you can have back and forth conversations. Isn't that interesting? So your first task is to simply observe. Now, the reason that I'm asking you to do this is that for whatever reason, this trend, this tactic, this completely gigantic human behavior change is starting to be ignored by childcare center owners. They're not able to pivot fast enough. They're not realizing that instead of people going to Google and Facebook groups and Reddit and reading all your reviews, that they're now, a portion is now going to ChatGPT and saying, can you tell me some of the childcare centers near me? Are there any Montessori centers near me? What about Reggio Emilia centers? Should I send my kids to a STEM or STEAM program? What are the differences? What do things cost? They're going to ChatGPT for parenting advice rather than Google because they're liking those, not even short replies, but they're liking that they can just throw a statement out there. Hey, tell me 5 parenting tips. And instead of getting sponsored results in Google and then Google Guaranteed, which is the Google Local, and then seeing the Google business profiles, and then you start to see listings, and maybe you'll find an article. They're getting content served to them on a silver platter in seconds. And then they have the ability to interact with that response. Well, you gave me 5 parenting tips. The first 3 are really untraditional. I don't like them. I love the last 2. Give me 5 more like that. And then they get fed more stuff back. And it's giving them that instant gratification, but it is so personal. That's what I love about agentic search and AI search, is that it's learning about you. As you're interacting with it more and more and more, it gets to know you. It knows your search habits. It knows certain questions you might be asking or how you're going to respond so that it gives you better results. Now, Google tries to do this, and it tries to serve up what they deem to be the most applicable content that you're aiming to search for. But as I stand here today, and if you listen to this 12 months out, I would not be surprised if an additional 25 to even 50% of that traffic that was searching on Google is now being searched on tools like ChatGPT. So right now, ChatGPT is the reigning leader. Now, I would argue that they have a lot of first mover advantage. They get a lot of first mover adoption similar to Google. I think it's going to be very hard to grab other people from Grok and Claude and all these other ones to not have them use that a little bit, but most people are still defaulting to ChatGPT. I think it's going to be an uphill battle to have them completely move off of ChatGPT over onto something like Grok or Claude. But a lot of people are using multiple models, but the default one that I am seeing when I look around and I start to ask, what kind of AI search stuff did you do this week? Well, I used it for X. Well, that's interesting. Isn't that interesting? Tell me a little bit more. Like, why did you go to ChatGPT when I know that you love to use X? Well, I didn't want to pay for the premium version of Grok, and I'm already paying for ChatGPT, this great version, or they do this. I like Sora. I wanted a fun Sora video, so that's why I did it. You want to start to get inquisitive over the next couple of weeks so that you can start to convince yourself and see that this is where everything is headed. Agentic search is growing at a gangbuster rate. So your step one is to get inquisitive, to ask, isn't that interesting, to look at how your team is using it, and then start to ask some questions. Step two is you need a battle plan. It is a very, very different way of optimizing your website, your business, your brand than just normal search engine optimization. So search engine optimization in simplicity is where a company like mine is ensuring that your website is done to a really high standard. We're picking the keywords that people are searching for. So like preschool near me. And then we hit all these little boxes, we build links, we buy links. There's dozens and dozens of things that go into it. I'm massively oversimplifying it. But the objective is to rank very, very high in Google because there are still millions and millions and millions of people that are searching in Google all day, every day. And while that's still important, and I still want that traffic, those eyeballs, that attention for you, I need you to start understanding that in the next couple of months, it's going to keep shifting and shifting and shifting to things like ChatGPT. So how do you actually optimize for agentic search? Now, this is one that I would argue is a little bit controversial, and I'm not going to go down that path because that's higher level kind of marketing geek speak. But I've got plenty of white papers that show that Google is looking for things differently than ChatGPT versus Grok versus Claude, Gemini. They're looking for different things that you can make sure are well optimized. It's not just making sure your site is optimized for Google. You need to understand that it needs to be sorted out also for all these other AI engines. But the good news is that there's one common aspect that it comes down to. One core thing that has held true for, 20 years? I think 20 or 25 years ago, when I started my first agency, I published a yearly article that was, here is the year in review, and then here's what I'm predicting as the trends for the upcoming year. And for almost 10 years, maybe even more, I started off the exact same way. Content has remained king. Google loves content. If you look at what these AI outputs, look at the outputs, what are they spitting out? Lots and lots and lots of content. Google loves content. ChatGPT loves content. Where's this content coming from? It's coming from things that people have written. It's not making it up on the fly. So what you want is your childcare center or centers to be the single source of truth, or at least one of them where these AI engines are getting the content from. So you need to focus on your content game the next 12 months. And when I'm saying content game, I'm not talking posting once a day on Facebook. I'm talking posting 2, 3, 4, 5 blog posts every single week. I'm talking about publishing 25, 50, 100-page white papers. I'm talking about publishing extensive reports that reference academia sources, like giving things that are really well researched. Now, the neat thing is, before you're like, oh, Michael, who's going to do all this? Spoiler alert, there are AI tools that can help you write all of that. But you need to look at what is your content strategy for the next 12 months, and whatever you're thinking, 10x it. Well, Michael, I was thinking 2 blogs a week, 10x it. Now, it's not to say that you're going to be able to get that done, but if you're shooting for 2, hopefully you'll get the 2, but I'd rather you shoot for 20 and get 10 done. You cannot have enough content at this stage, and I need to see the content everywhere. You need to be looking at all these other alternative platforms like Reddit, for example. You need to be on Wikipedia. You need to be constantly publishing to your website, but publishing so much stuff of value that they're like, oh my gosh, this childcare center, they just published a 30-page white paper on the new way of parenting. And what will start to happen is as your sites are getting referenced, that whole preschool near me, Montessori school near me, daycare near me, when someone searches for it, you're going to be in the recommended spots because they're looking to you as that authoritative source, which is what Google has been trying to do. Now, I oversimplified today, but I boiled it down to two things. And I can tell you that if you do not heed this information, if you don't take action, all the centers that I work with, that our team works with, that do take action are going to dominate. It will be so hard for you to catch up to figure out where did all that attention go? Well, it's all the way over here, and you are now it's the equivalent of being ranking in the top 100 of Google and being maybe 98 when your competitor is in the top 5. They're going to get 90% of the traffic. Some of the other people will get some. You'll be getting 0. Imagine that. If you're literally getting 0. And what you're going to start to see are the Google results starting to decline. That amount of traffic you're getting, the leads, that will start to dry up in the future. Whether that's 3 months, 6 months, 2 years, it will not be 10 years. My prediction is less than 12 months. You will start to see more and more parents finding you on ChatGPT, Claude, etc. Step 1, get creative, get inquisitive, say, isn't that interesting? And ask more, see how people are starting to use it so that you can understand that you need to be on this trend. Number 2, plan the most robust content strategy that you can. Get an agency like ours to help, hire somebody internally, start to figure out how you can produce content at scale so that you can start to get found more in these engines. Take action on this one today. You cannot ignore this. Michael Tasner signing off. Good morning, good afternoon, and good night. I'll see you next week. We will continue on these trends.